Welcome, it is Mitch. I am on YouTube. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel as we try to build this thing up. NFC North rivalry. Packers-Bears on Sunday at Soldier Field. Final thoughts, topic of discussion for this video. We'll be diving through a lot. I don't know where to start with this one. Chicago is, I'm not even trying to joke about it. They're such a disaster. It is chaos. It is dysfunction to the highest levels, and it does start up top with the Chicago Bears. Like, every time I think they're going through this cycle where it's like rookie quarterback, lame duck coach, maybe this is the time they'll get it right. And I haven't bought into that notion the past two times when it was John Fox with Mitchell Trubisky as a rookie and then Matt Nagy with Justin Fields as a rookie. And this time around, I did think like Caleb Williams was so good that it could oversee some of the problems, but at least as a rookie, it's just I can't fathom how bad and dysfunctional the Chicago Bears are. And I'm not making that as a joke. I'm not making light of it. Like, they're so dysfunctional. If I were a Chicago Bears fan, I don't know how I could do it. I'd be so irate. And, I'm a New York Knicks fan, so I've seen my fair share of dysfunctional front offices, but I always had some false hope with the Knicks, when they try to bring in big names on the back end of their careers or try to do a flashy hire at head coach, and it was dysfunction with them. But with the Bears, it seems to be so much deeper and rooted so much deeper with the Bears. It's crazy to me. Like, I was wrong in thinking this. I truly thought this year the Bears would be a playoff contender. And the crazy thing is they're 4-5. But a 4-5 team has never felt so dead as the Chicago Bears do. Losers of 3 straight. They haven't scored a touchdown in 2 weeks. And they played Arizona, who's decent, but definitely vulnerable on defense. The Packers chewed up and spit out that defense a few weeks ago on a very rainy afternoon at Lambeau Field. And then they didn't score a touchdown. They scored 3 total points against New England, who's not a very good team across the board right now. The Bears are 4-5. They've got 8 games left. At 4-5, it's not sitting pretty. But typically you're like, hey, if we can figure things out, we could, try to vie for a playoff spot, a wild card spot. The Bears just feel like toast. Like 4-5 feels like 2-7 for them. The Rams are 4-5. The Seahawks are 4-5. The Buccaneers are 4-6. I would give all 3 of those teams a much higher percentage chance. I don't care what the analytics say. I would give them a much higher percentage chance to right the wrongs and try to sneak out a wild card spot than I would the Bears. The Bears don't even feel like a 4-5 team right now. It feels like so much worse. So I was wrong in suspecting that they could vie for a playoff spot this year. I still, for whatever reason, think Caleb Williams can be really good, but is it going to be too late? Like, is he already broken beyond repair? That's how bad it has been in Chicago. You've got anonymous teammates this past week calling for Tyson Bagent to start. I mean, it's not Caleb Williams sees that stuff, whether he admits it or not. There's anonymous teammates calling for the backup to start. They just fired their offensive coordinator, Shane Waldron. He didn't even last 10 games in Chicago. Didn't even last 10 games. Year 1, gone. Now, I hope Chicago doesn't believe that will fix all of its problems, because it will not. It goes far beyond Shane Waldron. Maybe you can start there, but it goes far beyond that. And I'm kind of ticked off that they got rid of Waldron this week, because I do think it'll give them some sort of boost. Like, I look at the Saints. We see this time and again in sports. Team is frustrated, roster's frustrated, front office, coaching staff, all that. If a team gets rid of a coach during the season, I think, I don't want to say a lot of the time, but it happens where it gives them a boost, at least initially. The Saints just lost 7 games in a row. The cherry on top was a loss 2 weeks ago to the Carolina Panthers. They fired their head coach, Dennis Allen. They just beat Atlanta, the division leader, at home this past week. I think it was 20-17. So it gives a team a boost. It had been so bad for the Bears, something had to change. I was hoping they would ride it out one more week against Green Bay. I'm not suggesting the offense is going to come out for Chicago and put up 35 against Green Bay. Like, you'd be foolish to think that, but I do think getting rid of Shane Waldron will give them some sort of boost, because internally in that locker room, mentally with some of those players, they are convinced that the biggest problem was the offensive coordinator. Now he's gone. Now they want to go out and prove that the biggest problem was the offensive coordinator. Like, it gives the Bears some juice. Whether or not you're rolling your eyes at that or not, it's true. It's going to give them some juice, so I wish they would have waited. But there's, like I said, there's so many more problems. The Bears in 2023 signed offensive guard Nate Davis to a 3-year, $30 million deal. They will pay him a little over $20 million of that as they just cut him on Wednesday morning. Why is that so, well, not surprising. Why is it so kind of funny in a sense? The Bears right now are so banged up on the offensive line. They have injuries across the board. Both of their offensive tackles returned to practice in some capacity on Wednesday, but they're beat up on the inside too. Their offensive line has been atrocious. They've allowed the second most sacks in the NFL so far this year. Caleb Williams under constant duress. Yet they looked at Nate Davis, who they just signed in March of 2023 to a 3-year, $30 million deal, and they were so fed up with him, they said, we're just going to get rid of him. Put him on waivers. Let's get rid of this guy, a potential solution. That's how bad it is. They got rid of an offensive guard they just signed to a 3-year deal in 2023 with an offensive line that's woefully banged up right now. It's crazy to me. So they'll have a new play caller this week. I think it gives them some sort of boost. It can't get much worse, right? They haven't scored a touchdown since the game against Washington when they lost on the Hail Mary. 3 points against a pretty terrible New England Patriots team last week in a game that was at home for the Bears. Chicago, like, any way you slice up the pie, it's not good. The Bears are 24th in points per game, 30th in passing offense, 30th in total offense, 31st in third down conversion percentage, second, as I said, in sacks allowed. The defense, to me, hasn't been bad. They're missing a big piece. They've been missing a big piece at safety. Brisker's going to be out again. Kind of scary, out with a concussion since October 6th. And so that's a long return for him. You hope he's all right, but that's a big missing piece in the secondary for Chicago. This Sunday again against Green Bay. But the defense is 7th in points allowed, 7th in takeaways, 1st in red zone defense, which please circle that. If Green Bay's driving up and down the field Sunday, don't be surprised. If they can't finish off the drives, it's going to be extremely frustrating. But it's a Green Bay offense that has struggled in the red zone this year, and it's a Bears defense where no one does it better in the red zone defensively. They're first in the NFL. But Brisker being out is a big miss. One area I want to circle and actually comes on the other side of the ball. By the way, it is Mitch I am on YouTube. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Packers, Bears, final thoughts. I'm a bit worried for this one. I don't know why. The Bears have to empty the tank for this, right? Like, I'm not one of those people who's like, oh, this is Chicago's Super Bowl. They're 4-5. The season's lost. Like, this is their Super Bowl. But they've lost 3 in a row. They just fired their offensive coordinator. The offense wants to prove that was the biggest problem going on, so they're going to be revved up a little bit more. And they're on their home field. You just know Chicago's more juiced up for this game, being that it's Green Bay. And I think the part that worries me is that everything, and I mean everything, is stacking up in Green Bay's favor. Green Bay's off a bye. Matt LaFleur is 10-0 against the Bears. By the way, that's the longest win streak in this series, tied for the longest win streak in this series ever, dating back to the mid-'90s when the Packers won 10 in a row against Chicago. A win on Sunday, the Packers would set the longest win streak for either team in this long, storied rivalry. LaFleur's never lost to him. He's 10-0. And the Bears have been a disaster. Like, everything is stacking up in Green Bay's favor. And maybe that's why I'm a little bit worried. Like, I've got buddies who are Bears fans they're not even trying to play games when they're texting me this week. They're like, no, we're shot. Like, we suck. Like, we're not beating Green Bay on Sunday. There's just, even though they fired Waldron. And at first I'm like, they're trying to do the reverse jinx thing. I get it, but it doesn't even sound like that. It is a depleted, defeated team, fan base, front office, and maybe that's why I'm worried a little bit. Like, Chicago is getting to that point where they just have nothing to lose. But they're going to want to prove that Waldron was part of the issue. So we'll see. Flip side of the ball, I mentioned that. One thing I'm watching for. The New England Patriots had 16 sacks in 9 games entering last Sunday. I'll say it one more time because sometimes when you throw stats out, the brain needs to hear it twice. It's a pretty simple one, though. The New England Patriots had 16 sacks in 9 games entering last week against Chicago. They had 9 against the Bears. 16 in 9 games. 9 alone last week against Chicago. Green Bay, Rashawn Gary, Lucas Van Ness. Figure it out this week. Coming off a bye. Figure it out. The Packers have been atrocious at getting pressure on the quarterback. And you can look at sacks, pressures, hurries, hits, whatever you want to look at, whatever you value the most. It has not been good for Green Bay. Preston Smith's gone. You're going to need something out of Mosby, maybe something out of Brenton Cox. You're certainly going to need more out of Rashawn Gary, Lucas Van Ness, and Kingsley Enagbari. That trio has to step up and deliver. And just like early in the year, when Green Bay struggled through, what was it, the first 2 games or 3 games, and they were struggling in the pass rush department, we circled the Tennessee game. And at that time, we're like, Tennessee's offensive line is terrible. Green Bay has to capitalize. I think they had 8 or 9 sacks that game against the Titans. Since then, it's been really quiet. And you can't expect a team to get 8, 9 sacks every game. But Green Bay is going weeks with 1 or 2 sacks combined across a couple of games, a few games. That's not going to cut it when you get to the postseason. If you have, dreams and aspirations of making a deep run through the NFC, trying to get to New Orleans in February. This is another game. We can circle it. You're coming out of a bye. I know you traded Preston Smith. He only had 2.5 sacks this year. You're coming out of a bye. The Bears are as depleted as it can get on the offensive line. Maybe they get some pieces back at offensive tackle this week, but those pieces aren't exactly, shining pieces so far this year for Chicago. Braxton Jones, I don't know. This has to be another game where you circle it for Green Bay and say, you got to get home. You have to get home to the quarterback. Some of those sacks against New England are on the offensive line. Some of them are on Caleb Williams hanging on to the ball too long, trying to make something out of nothing, which sometimes can work, but for him it has not so far in his rookie campaign. You have to get home if you're Green Bay this week. Don't give this offense any hope with a new play caller. Don't give this rookie quarterback a clean pocket and plenty of time to throw, because he has the arm talent where he can beat you. Just don't. Don't give them any early life. Wipe it away right from the get-go. If I'm Jeff Hafley, I'm bringing the pressure all day. I know it's not in Green Bay's nature. I don't care. Certain situations call for it. This is one of those situations. Make Caleb Williams uncomfortable. Make him uncomfortable. If you don't, that's where it starts to play in where I'm oddly worried about this game. And maybe it's just because it's Packers, Bears, and everyone under the sun is taking the Packers to win. I think they're 6.5-point favorites last time I looked. We'll see, but you got to get after the quarterback. It's been like a theme for Green Bay this year, but when you're playing a team who's given up the second most sacks in the league, just gave up 9 in one game their last time out against New England, you have to hit home if you're Green Bay. I don't expect you to get 9 sacks like New England did. Maybe I'm being too optimistic here, but 4 or 5, like you just QB pressures, QB hits, just rack them up. Don't give this offense any room to get comfortable. That's why I know it hasn't been in Green Bay's nature to blitz a whole hell of a lot this year, but if early on you're rushing for, if you're Jeff Hafley, and it's not hitting home, which we've seen a ton this year, start dialing up the pressure. Let's see Edger and Cooper come. Let's see Quay Walker bring a blitz. Let's see, where you line it up 7 across and Xavier McKinney's one of those 7 and he comes on a safety blitz. You can't let this offense try to gain even a sliver of confidence early on. Mitch, I am on YouTube. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Appreciate all the support. Packers, Bears on Sunday at Soldier Field. There were so many numbers I was combing through for this one. I think the most obvious one that everyone knows is one I mentioned earlier, that Matt LaFleur has never lost to the Bears. He's 10-0. It's tied for the longest win streak by either team in this series ever. There was another stat that I recognize dating back to the Favre era in 92 all the way up until now, that in large part the Packers, they've dominated the Bears, in large part. There's been a couple of years that were outliers, things of that nature, but Green Bay has really put a stamp on this rivalry, so much so that people have started questioning, yeah, it's Packers, Bears, but how much of a rivalry is it when the Bears haven't won in 5 years, right? And you're playing twice a year. There was one number that I saw that despite Green Bay's dominance, it still surprised me. Again, I'm not trying to joke around about it and have fun at the Bears' expense. This number genuinely surprised me, and I wasn't aware of it. The Packers have won 13 of the last 14 in Chicago. Think about that. I know they're 10-0 under LaFleur, so that dates back 5 years. I know under Rodgers, Rodgers was the owner of the Chicago Bears, and he screamed at Soldier Field a few years ago, I own you, I still own you, and it got the Bears fans all riled up. But I did not know Green Bay's won 13 of 14, the 13 of the last 14 in Chicago, And I think it's 15. I have it right here. Give me a second. Excuse me. It's not 15. 25 of the last 30. The last 30 years that the Packers have played the Bears in Chicago. I'm not talking about the overall series. 25 of the last 30 years the Packers have played in Chicago, they've won. In 13 of the last 14. That's crazy. That's why people are like, can we call this a rivalry? How is anyone, still calling it that? I wasn't aware of that. Green Bay's 13-1 their last 14 in Chicago and 25-5 in the last 30 years. That's crazy. You talk about in a rivalry, the first thing you got to do is defend your home court, defend your home field. It's been a second home for Green Bay. 25 of the last 30 they've won in Chicago. And I look at this game on Sunday and I see how both teams are currently stacked up. How Detroit played against Green Bay 2 weeks ago is exactly how Green Bay needs to play against Chicago. I was at the game. I went back, rewatched the game. And I thought as I was watching it live at Lambeau that it was playing out how I envisioned it, like how I was watching it. And then when I went back and watched it, confirmed those thoughts, right? What I mean by that is Detroit, to me, played that game 2 weeks ago against Green Bay, not in a conservative nature, maybe a little bit, but Detroit played that game, and to me it very clearly looked like a team that was like, if we don't mess up, we're going to win, because we think they're going to mess up. Penalties, pre-snap penalties, turnovers. Love had the pick six. Detroit, to me, they didn't take many shots downfield. Jared Goff, I think, was under 160 yards passing. Gibbs and Montgomery were effective in the running game, but there weren't like huge back-breaking runs outside of the 4th and 1 when it was 17-3 already, and Gibbs ran it in to make it 24-3. Detroit played that game to me how Green Bay has played teams before, where you don't want to call it conservative, but it is just how I said it. If we don't mess up, we're going to win this game. And we saw that a lot in the Aaron Rodgers era, one of the best TD interception ratios, maybe the best of all time of any quarterback. Very rare are the instances where the opponent is doing that to Green Bay. That's why it opened my eyes. I can't remember too many times where when I was watching Green Bay, it struck me as the opposition is playing this knowing if they don't screw up, they're probably going to win. And that's how I thought Detroit played against Green Bay. That's how I think Green Bay needs to play against Chicago. I'm not classifying it as conservative. It's just button this shit up. Don't turn the ball over. Get rid of the dumb penalties, the pre-snap stuff. I told you I can live with Jordan Love interceptions. I can't live with the idiotic ones. The pick six against Detroit was one of the idiotic ones. We've seen idiotic ones this year from him. He's got 10. I would say at least half of them can be put in the category as what in the hell was he thinking on this throw. Don't give the Bears any hope. Cut off the oxygen early. Don't give them any chance. Approach this game, if you're Green Bay, with the mindset, you know what? If we don't mess up, we're going to win. Why? Because they are going to mess up. They are going to allow sacks. They are going to be penalized. They are going to turn it over. They are going to have lapses on defense, even though it's been a decent unit for Chicago this year. That's how I want Green Bay to approach this. Be aggressive, but keep it in the back of your mind. If we just play our game correctly and don't shoot ourselves in the foot, we're going to win. Because we know that team's going to shoot themselves in the foot because they've done it over and over and over and over again this year. That's how I want Green Bay to approach this one. Go up 14-0 early, wipe out any hope. Because if you get to the fourth quarter and it's a one-score game or it's a tie game, that's where it can get chaotic, those final 15 minutes. Because by then, Chicago's already going to have the belief that, hey, we can pull this one out. We can beat Green Bay, get back to 500, maybe salvage our season. That's going to be their mindset. Cut off the oxygen early, go up 14-0, and you don't coast, but you make sure that that's a team on the other sideline that knows they've got no shot on this particular day. That's what I want to see the Packers do. As for the Bears, I don't know. You got rid of your offensive coordinator. I don't know what you do next. Like Ebert, the lame duck coach thing is crazy to me that there's levels of incompetence with organizations and dysfunction. Like the Bears' dysfunction and incompetence to me is not the same as Cleveland has seen throughout the years and decades, and it's not the same that we've seen from Woody Johnson and the New York Jets. Like all dysfunction is not the same dysfunction. And for me, I cannot believe the Bears keep repeating the same thing. Bad years, draft a rookie quarterback. Yeah, we'll hang on to the coach for one more year, but he really needs to prove it. oh, coach doesn't prove it, he's gone. Now our rookie quarterback entering his second year is on his second head coach, likely his second offensive coordinator because that head coach wants to bring in his coaches and a new system. John Fox should have been fired. Far be it for me to call that. Let me say it this way. John Fox probably shouldn't have returned for his final year in Chicago. He did. They have a rookie quarterback in Mitch Trubisky. It doesn't go well. You're obviously not going to get rid of the rookie quarterback after 1 year. John Fox, the lame duck coach, is out. They bring in Matt Nagy. Matt Nagy, I'm not going to say should have been fired. That's not my place to say that. Matt Nagy probably shouldn't have been back for his last year in Chicago. Chicago says, we'll try it out one more time. They draft Justin Fields. It doesn't work out. Nagy's gone. They bring in Eberflus. Ryan Poles, the general manager, said when he took over, and I quote, "We're going to take control of the North and never give it back." The Bears have finished in last place every single year since Ryan Poles said that quote right when he took over as general manager, and they're well on pace to finish in last place again. I think the majority of the fan base wanted Eberflus gone after last year. I was worried genuinely. I remember having these conversations with my buddies who are Bears fans. I thought the home run hire would have been Jim Harbaugh. And I know it's unconventional. He's unorthodox. He's just kind of quirky in his ways. But he wins everywhere he goes. Dating back to his college days, I forget where he was at before Stanford, but he was at somewhere before Stanford and he won. He was at Stanford and he won. He comes to the 49ers and he won. He comes to Michigan and he wins. Now he takes over the Chargers. They're 6-3. I was genuinely worried the Bears were going to do the right thing for once and say, hey, they knew they had the number 1 pick in January wrapped up with that trade from Carolina. They knew they were going to take Caleb Williams. They knew they were going in a different direction. It would have made all the sense in the world to restart the coaching staff as well with the rookie quarterback. Instead, for God only knows what reason, they bring back Eberflus. Maybe he's a good coach and maybe this is all a Chicago Bears problem. I don't know. I like to split up the pie chart of blame. They bring back Eberflus. They draft Caleb Williams, and it's the same thing we saw with Nagy and Fields and the same thing we saw with Fox and Trubisky. I don't get how a team can just rinse and repeat that same thing over. Like it just defies logic, and if I were a Bears fan, I'd be pulling my hair out. It would drive me so insane that that's the route they continue. It's not dysfunction, but it's like all over the map, and you can't really predict what the Bears are going to do. It's the same sort of dysfunction. Yeah, let's hang on to this coach one more year. Maybe they'll figure out, but we're also going to draft a quarterback, start him his rookie year, and see how that goes. And then when it doesn't go well the first year, they get rid of the coach. And that's probably what's going to happen this time around, too. It's crazy to me. But this isn't a Bears podcast. The Packers are playing the Bears on Sunday at Soldier Field. I said it. Cut the oxygen off early, go up 2 scores, and make sure they know they have no shot on Sunday. Don't let them hang around. Bring the pressure if you're Jeff Hafley. You don't like blitzing, it's not in your nature. I don't care. Certain matchups dictate for different callings, and this is one of those where it's don't let the rookie quarterback get comfortable. You haven't been able to get pressure with 4. If you want to try it out early on Sunday and experiment, that's fine. And if you get home with 4, awesome, tremendous, because it is a very bad Chicago Bears offensive line. But if early on Caleb Williams is comfortable and you're not getting home with 4, start mixing it up. Start bringing 5, start bringing 6, start stacking it up. Confuse the looks for Chicago at a minimum, because you can't. Don't let this bad team have any hope, because they're going to come in thinking, hey, Waldron's gone. That was the big piece for us. We needed him gone. Now we can go. And it's not something that's going to play out over the span of the rest of this year. I can't imagine and be true. Like, Chicago's not all of a sudden going to become an incredible offense that Waldron's gone, but they're thinking that it's going to be much better. So cut it off early if you're Green Bay. Just make it easy on yourselves if you're the Packers. This hasn't felt like a rivalry in a long time. Don't let that start to shift on Sunday. You've won 13 of the last 14 in Chicago, 25 of the last 30. Make it 26-31 and 14-15. It is Mitch. I am on YouTube. Appreciate all the support as always. Please click subscribe. We'll have one more video at least for the end of the week. I will have a reaction video. It won't be right after the game Sunday. I'm out of town, and I won't be in front of the microphone and the camera right after the game, but sometime Sunday night, Monday morning, we will have a reaction video. Please subscribe if you haven't already. We'll see you next time.